Pew pew.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the J Situation. Today, I'm going to be showing you a little bit about the Sightmark CoreShot A-Spec reflex sight. Here you have everything that comes with the sight. You have the sight itself, which comes with a neoprene cover. I'm going to set that aside. The sight is installed on a riser mount for a Picatinny rail. This happens to be the QD riser mount that is included with the sight. The sight also comes with a lower profile mount, also for a Picatinny rail. You got your user manual, flathead screwdriver to adjust the windage and elevation of the sight, hex wrench to remove the bolts or fasten the bolts from the sight to the included mounts, and you get a CR 2032 button battery. So the CoreShot A-Spec is a reflex sight. So let's talk a little bit about that. Reflex sights work by projecting an LED light onto a reflective glass lens. When looking through the lens, you can superimpose the dot on your target objective. The reason why you can see the dot is because there's a coating on the lens, and if I kind of hold the lens up to the camera here, you can see how it's not 100% optically clear. You have some kind of coating or colored hue coating that's applied. So what that does is it is reflecting the wavelengths of light that are emitted by the LED here in the housing. All the other light is allowed to pass through it. So you can look through the sight, look through the glass, and see everything in front of you, but the red light from the LED is reflecting back at you, and that's when you see a dot. So that's the principal operation of a reflex sight. So let's go over some of the features of the sight itself. It's a fairly lightweight sight with a fairly compact housing. This is going to be larger than red dots like a Vortex Venom or a Trijicon RMR, things like that, but smaller than other larger sights like an EOTech, which happens to be a holographic sight, or maybe the larger Sightmark sights like the Ultrashot. So this is kind of a middle of the range size optic, and you can use it on an AR or a rifle such as that. The housing of the sight is constructed of 6061 T6 aluminum alloy. So it's fairly robust. It doesn't seem to be very thin. One thing I noticed, we kind of look close up here, you have the lens of the sight is enclosed in this frame, and then the exterior frame is separate. So what they've done is they've created the main aluminum housing, which is a machine part that houses the lens. Let's see if I can show you that. See that? So you have kind of a continuous system here, and then what they've done is that system kind of comes up to guard the lens. They have an insert that they've put into the housing body here to clip in the lens, and then there's a tertiary aluminum piece on the outside that covers both the lens frame and the outer housing body. So I haven't thrown this on the ground. I haven't abused it, but it seems like it will be fairly durable for, you know, the occasional drop or bang that you might encounter. The unit is water resistant. They rate it as IP55 water resistant. So what that actually means is that it has a limited dust ingress protection. Okay, so I guess you'll have to read up on what exactly that means. But it has limited dust protection, and the secondary part of the standard reads that it has low pressure water spray from arbitrary direction protection. So to me, what that means is you can shoot this in the rain and you'll be all right. What is not mentioned in the IP55 specification is submersible rating, so you probably don't want to submerge this. The specifications do indicate that it's shockproof. I'm not sure to what degree it's shockproof, but I know it is rated for rifle caliber use. So as far as recoil impulse, reliability, and sustainability, you should probably have not a lot of issues there. The lens itself is scratch resistant. I haven't beat it up fully, but the lens doesn't seem to scratch easily. I've been taking this on and off of my 10.5 inch AR that I shoot a lot, and you know, it's been in my range bag. I put the included neoprene cover on there sometimes. Sometimes I don't. I haven't really gotten any scratches on the lens, so perhaps the scratch resistance is doing okay. The unit comes with two different kinds of mounts. This first mount is a riser, and similar to the Pulsar mount that they use for their thermals, it's a QD. So it has a little lever here. Push that, unclip it, and what that's doing is opening that cam. So this cam surface engages here, and then you can clamp down on your Picatinny rail. Depending on the specifications of the particular Picatinny rail you have on your host firearm, you can compress this little guy right here, push the shaft, and then you can rotate this to result in a tighter or looser fit, and you can tune that to your weapon. So that's pretty nice. I actually find this mount to be fairly repeatable. Once you get it dialed in for your particular gun, I use the same exact type of mount on my Pulsar thermal, so seems to work pretty well. So the Sightmark branded optics and the Pulsar branded optics seem to be sharing some similar mount hardware. This is the secondary mount that it comes with. This is also a Picatinny mount, and again it's spring loaded, so you can see that if you tighten down this knob, see how that's closing, then that's going to snug it up to this edge. And again, you can adjust that to your particular rail. Both of the mounts connect to the sight itself through the use of two hex bolts, and then they have these 4 pegs that kind of sit into the bottom of the mount body. And like I showed you, they include a screwdriver for the battery compartment, and they include a hex wrench for these bolts. So those bolts are these guys right here, and they fit directly through the aluminum sight housing, and they thread directly into the drilled and tapped holes within the mount. So there's no nuts to put on the back. These mounts are drilled and tapped for the thread pitch of the bolts that come with the sight. The sight has a fairly wide lens. I found that during operation of the sight, on a 10.5-inch AR with both eyes open, as I tend to operate with when I'm using a reflex sight or red dot like this. I found that I had no trouble acquiring the dot, and because of the viewfinder is very large, but at the same time, because it's sort of almost like a ghost ring, or for lack of a better term, kind of an open sight, I found that it really didn't crowd my field of view. So I thought that was very nice, and the wide lens lends itself to fairly quick target acquisition and sight acquisition. So I was pretty pleased with the sight overall as far as the size goes. I wasn't sure what to expect. I actually pictured it being a little smaller before I received it, but then I quickly realized, like I said earlier, that it's kind of that intermediate size between the smaller red dots and the larger reflex and holographic optics. So like I mentioned, the sight does come with a flathead screwdriver to adjust both the elevation and the windage of the optic. Now, each click that you actuate with the screwdriver, you can hear that clicking back and forth. Each click is 1 minute of angle adjustment. So that's kind of a relatively large adjustment. That's going to be 1 inch at 100 yards of distance, for example, or half an inch at 50 yards. So just to give you an idea of what that means. I had no trouble getting the sight zeroed at the range. What I did is actually used a bore sight at my house before I went to the range to align the dot of the optic with the the laser bore sight that's shooting from the chamber of my AR to a nearby wall, for example, and that allowed me to get on paper there at the range with the first shot, so then I could take over with the fine adjustments on the elevation and the windage here on the sight. So that seemed to work fairly well. So the sight has digital controls. So the method of operation, if you look here on the, I guess, the left side or the port side of the sight, if you're looking downrange this way, then this would be your left side. You have two buttons. You have a illumination button here and a button labeled NV for night vision. Okay, so both of these buttons can turn on the sight. You have 8 levels of brightness, 6 levels of brightness in the typical daytime range with the sun icon there, and you have 2 levels of brightness with the night vision option. And so what the night vision option does is it automatically takes the brightness down to a level that is dim enough, or has a low enough light intensity to not harm a night vision device and not blind you in using a night vision device such as night vision monocular or something like that. The cool thing is that you can just you hold this down to turn it on. You see the dot. It will remember the last setting you had it on. So if you had it on a daytime setting, it will remember that setting. Next time you turn it on or off, you turn it off by holding it down again. Similarly, it will remember the night vision setting. And to change the intensity and change the settings, you just tap the button over and over again, and the light will, that red LED that's projected on the lens, and I'm going to show you that here. You can see that dot, right? That's because I turned it on, and so it's shooting from the emitter. You can barely see that. Shooting from the emitter, and it's bouncing onto the screen there and is reflecting that wavelength of light, and you can see the dot. See with the red dot, see the dot moves when I move the sight relative to the camera. There's not a lot of parallax error, so you can kind of have your head behind this with both eyes open and shoot relatively well. So red dots are super fast for target acquisition for that, because of that. There is a low battery indication mode on the dot itself, and so the dot's going to turn off after an hour, no matter what. But if the dot starts blinking every 2 seconds, that means that you only have an hour of battery life left. So you should probably pay attention to the site. If the dot starts blinking, you know you have an hour before you need to change your battery. So depending on the level of brightness intensity that you use with the optic, Sightmark quotes the battery life at anywhere between 20 hours and 1400 hours. So I guess it really depends. If you're using it during the day constantly, maybe you're going to need to replace the battery more than if you're using it with a night vision device, or maybe it indoor ranges a lot, or in conditions in which you don't require the highest brightness level. I found that I did not need the highest brightness level when I was using it at an indoor range. So that's really going to depend on your use case, but keep those battery limitations in mind, and you might want to keep a spare battery with you, depending on on the length of the excursion that you're planning to use the site for. I wanted to compare the size, the format, and the platform of the CoreShot to a well-known site, one that I use a lot. That's the Aimpoint Micro T1. So this is my personal T1 I've had since I think it came out. I've had it for over 10 years, I think. This site actually has a rubber cover on it. This is a Tango down cover because the first iteration of these Aimpoints didn't come with lens caps. So these kind of flip back like this. And I realized I did leave this on. I see it's on a brightness there. Sometimes I forget to turn it off. The battery life on the Aimpoint is a very, very long time, so I don't really worry about that. The Aimpoint is similar in that it is a reflex sight. It's actually reflex sight just like the CoreShot is, except on Aimpoints, instead of projecting the beam directly in the center, you can see the red dot there on the Aimpoint site. This one projects it from an emitter at the side there. So that side emitter inside the ocular lens is shining it at the objective lens from the side. So that does kind of, you can kind of see that emitter in your field of view. Whereas through the CoreShot, you cannot see the emitter because the emitter is behind this housing. Okay. Looking at overall size, and keep in mind that my Aimpoint has some extraneous material because of my lens protection here. I have the Aimpoint on the LaRue tactical mount, QD mount, and they're about the same height, give or take, on both of the mounts that I'm using at least. About the same size, in length or depth, I guess you could call it. So they're pretty similar in size, but one thing that stands out to me after using both of them, of course using this one for a decade and using this one for a few weeks, is that the sight picture is a lot different. I'm really used to using both eyes open with the Aimpoint. I look through the ocular lens, and I kind of have to look around the rest of the housing. I use both eyes open, and I can see my objective, and I can see the dot. I overlay the dot, I can engage. With this sight, the Sightmark, there's a lot less to look at. There's a lot less going on. If I point those to the camera, what you see, as far as, I guess, footprint, There's a lot more with the Aimpoint. There's a lot happening here. And the lens is smaller. The lens that you're looking through is smaller. So it's a little bit harder to pick up the dot as quickly. I should say that there are other options, other Aimpoint options, but comparing just these two sights together, I would say I would venture a guess that it might be faster to acquire a sight picture with a Sightmark a little bit faster. They're different sights, they're different price points. The Aimpoint costs maybe 7 times as much as the Sightmark sight, or maybe less, maybe a little more. I'm not exactly sure what the current street prices are for both of these sights, but I know that the Sightmark is a sight that you can put on anyone's gun that you're teaching to shoot. You can put it on one of your guns for a class. You can use it for self-defense, whatever. It's not going to break the bank. It does have a lifetime warranty, so if anything breaks, you're going to get it fixed. But I'm not sure of the durability compared to something like the Aimpoint, which it's kind of another level of sight. All in all, I've really enjoyed using this sight. I think that it's great when more optics come out for consumers to be able to use. I think that choices are great. One thing I really like is that this one is designed in Texas. That's pretty sweet. I know Sightmark is actually looking to start manufacturing operations here in the United States, in Texas as well, which I'm all for. Aimpoint, those aren't made here. So while I love it, there's something to be said about purchasing a sight that's made in your home country. It gives you a sense of pride. I really like that. I know that the customer service for the Sightmark brand is the same customer service you receive for the Pulsar brand. It's all through Cellmark, which is based up in North Texas, near Dallas. I know those guys personally, and they're good guys. So, if I was in the market for a reflex sight or red dot, and I was looking for something that didn't break the bank and could afford me the opportunity to purchase some other accessories too, I would definitely look hard at the Sightmark. I haven't used a lot of open red dot sights, but I do know this appears to be fairly durable. So as I continue to use it, I'll let you guys know what I think. And if you have any questions or particular concerns, or you want to know any more specifics about the site that I didn't cover, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram. All in all, I've really enjoyed using this site. I think that it's great when more optics come out for consumers to be able to use. I think that choices are great. One thing I really like is that this one is designed in Texas. That's pretty sweet. I know Sightmark is actually looking to start manufacturing operations here in the United States, in Texas as well, which I'm all for. Aimpoint, those aren't made here. So while I love it, there's something to be said about purchasing a sight that's made in your home country. It gives you a sense of pride. I really like that. I know that the customer service for the Sightmark brand is the same customer service you receive for the Pulsar brand. It's all through Cellmark, which is based up in North Texas, near Dallas. I know those guys personally, and they're good guys. So if I was in the market for a reflex sight or red dot, and I was looking for something that didn't break the bank and could afford me the opportunity to purchase some other accessories too, I would definitely look hard at the Sightmark. I haven't used a lot of open red dot sights, but I do know this appears to be fairly durable. So as I continue to use it, I'll let you guys know what I think. And if you have any questions or particular concerns, or you want to know any more specifics about the site that I didn't cover, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram. Good way to contact me. And perhaps I'll post some more information about it if you're interested. Thanks again for tuning in to the J Situation, and I'll have more reviews coming soon for you. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram. Go check out my website at thejsituation.com. Check out the podcast. There's all kinds of things going on, so don't miss out. I'll see you next time.
Pew, pew.